Welcome, everyone. You're listening to Crystal Clear English Podcast. Learn English, the crystal clear way. Today, we're embarking on a deep dive into something I think really resonates with so many of you on your English language journey. It's this profound realization that learning English, or really any language, it's much less of a frantic sprint and far more of a patient, enduring marathon.
Oh, absolutely. And it's incredibly easy to fall into that sprint trap, isn't it? So many learners, they start out viewing language acquisition as this kind of rapid race for immediate fluency. Often, they're driven by these enticing promises of quick results you see from modern apps and courses.
Why? Those fluent in 3 months promises.
Exactly. And they set themselves up with this expectation of swift, almost effortless mastery.
Which, of course, rarely happens. And when that lightning-fast fluency doesn't materialize, well, it can be profoundly discouraging, can it?
Immensely.
The truth is, language acquisition is just. It's a complex, organic process. It's not neat.
Not at all. It's characterized by what we've often observed as intermittent turbulence, fluctuation, and stability.
That's a great way to put it. Think of it less as a smooth, predictable path.
Yeah.
And more like a chaotic itinerary, maybe, full of unexpected twists and turns.
A chaotic itinerary. I like that. It captures the unpredictability perfectly.
Yeah.
And this self-imposed pressure, this whole race mentality, it becomes profoundly counterproductive. When the expectation for quick, linear progress slams into the reality, the inherent complexity, the natural plateaus, the inevitability of errors.
Yeah.
It doesn't just create minor setbacks. It actually erects significant psychological hurdles.
Hurdles like what?
Well, we're talking heightened anxiety, deep frustration, and sometimes even outright burnout.
Okay. So our mission today, then, is to really unpack these psychological hurdles that come from that race mindset.
Exactly. And then, crucially, lay out a clear step-by-step blueprint. Because this isn't just about learning English grammar or vocabulary lists. It's about transforming your entire experience.
Right. Making it sustainable.
Sustainable, genuinely enjoyable, and ultimately, successful. A journey that champions consistent progress and your overall well-being.
It sounds like it's really about a fundamental shift in perspective.
That's the core of it, a shift for a confident and truly fulfilling path forward.
Okay, let's roll up our sleeves then and really dig into these hurdles. Our first major obstacle when we treat language learning like this mad dash to the finish line is the heavy weight of what's known as foreign language anxiety, FLA.
FLA.
And this isn't just like a minor case of nerves. It's pervasive, incredibly common, and it causes learners to instinctively avoid participation.
Critically, avoid speaking.
Yes, avoid speaking English altogether.
And it's important to understand this isn't just a generalized anxiety you might feel before, say, a big presentation in your native language. FLA is situation-specific. It's triggered directly by the unique demands of language learning itself.
Okay.
We've identified several primary sources that really feed this anxiety. First, there's communication apprehension.
What does it mean exactly?
That's that distinct knot in your stomach, the racing heart, maybe a dry mouth, that feeling you get just thinking about attempting to express yourself in a new language.
Okay, I can picture that.
Then there's a profound fear of making mistakes. Just the genuine dread of saying something incorrectly or sounding, well, foolish.
Yeah, the embarrassment factor.
Exactly. And tied to that is the third one. A deep-seated worry about being judged by others, peers, teachers, even native speakers. We call this the fear of negative evaluation.
So like when you speak in class, your mind just jumps to thinking everyone's critiquing every little slip-up.
Precisely. You imagine them scrutinizing your grammar, your pronunciation, everything.
I think many listeners can vividly picture those feelings. It sounds really stressful.
Yeah.
So where does this kind of intense fear really stem from?
Often, it's deeply rooted in a kind of negative self-perception. Learners mistakenly believe that everyone around them, classmates, teachers, strangers, are constantly analyzing their every word, like they're under a microscope. But here's a crucial counterintuitive fact. Most of the time, the listener's focus is almost entirely on the content of your message.
Really? Not the grammar.
Primarily, are they understanding what you're trying to communicate? The perfect form, the flawless grammar. That's usually secondary to just getting the meaning across.
That's actually a huge relief to hear, I'm sure, for many people listening.
Yeah.
But what about the broader context? Do cultural factors play a role here too?
Oh, absolutely they do. Concepts like saving face, for instance, which are deeply ingrained in many collectivist societies.
Okay.
They can dramatically intensify this fear of embarrassment, Making a public mistake might feel like it reflects badly not just on you, but maybe on your family or your whole community.
Wow, so the stakes feel much higher.
Exactly. And this cultural pressure can lead to a really powerful withdrawal from speaking opportunities. The perceived risk of losing face simply outweighs the desire or the need to practice.
Which explains why language anxiety is such a potent catalyst for avoidance.
Totally. Whether it's skipping optional conversation classes or just staying silent in a group when you actually have something to say.
And here's where it gets really impactful, right? This isn't just a one-off feeling. It actually creates a vicious, self-perpetuating cycle.
That's the key problem. Your anxiety leads to avoidance. You don't speak up.
Right.
That avoidance then prevents you from developing your skills because, well, you're not getting the practice you need.
And
then that lack of skill development naturally reinforces your initial anxiety. It makes the next speaking opportunity feel even more daunting.
so it just spirals downwards, a debilitating loop.
Precisely. So if we connect this to the bigger picture, the core challenge isn't just managing the symptoms of anxiety when they pop up.
It's about breaking the cycle itself.
Exactly. It's about strategically breaking that avoidance cycle at its root. And this means gently, but consistently, encouraging yourself to take small, manageable steps into those uncomfortable speaking situations.
Like building a muscle.
That's a great analogy. You start with light weights. You don't try to lift the heaviest thing on day one. Small, consistent effort.
So the crucial takeaway here is, it sounds profoundly simple, but I know it's immensely difficult.
Yeah,
Not speaking is often the biggest mistake you can make.
it truly is.
The real challenge is finding the courage and the strategy to break that avoidance cycle, one tiny, maybe uncomfortable step at a time.
Being brave enough to just try, even if your voice trembles a little.
Okay, so anxiety is a huge one. Moving beyond that, another significant hurdle that many English learners face, particularly maybe professionals or high achievers,
Yes, that's right.
is what we call the perfectionism trap. They bring these incredibly high standards from other parts of their life into language learning.
And ironically, it ends up stifling their fluency.
Massively. I see this constantly. How does this perfectionism actually, show up in language learning?
Well, it often manifests as this constant, almost paralyzing fear of making any mistake at all. This leads to excessive self-correction. They're constantly interrupting themselves mid-sentence to fix tiny things. They overthink every single word, every grammatical structure, every nuance of pronunciation before it's even spoken. They're editing in their head constantly.
That sounds exhausting.
It is. And ultimately, this intense internal pressure leads to outright avoidance. They avoid speaking, sometimes even writing, in English.
Because the standard is just impossible.
Exactly. Imagine trying to have a spontaneous, flowing conversation when you're internally reviewing every potential word choice, every verb tense. It results in a significant lack of spontaneous participation in discussions and just this pervasive sense of deep frustration because their internal bar is simply unreachable.
Wow. So where do these perfectionist tendencies usually come from? Are they always there?
Often they're rooted in underlying fear and insecurity. Fear of looking foolish, fear of not being seen as smart enough, maybe fear of judgment.
Right. Similar roots to the anxiety we just talked about.
Very similar. And it creates another one of these insidious loops. The fear of being seen making a mistake leads them to stay rigidly within their linguistic comfort zone.
They don't take risks.
They avoid any linguistic risks, and consequently, they fail to fully express their complex ideas or reach their true communicative potential.
What's really insightful here, I think, is that perfectionism in language learning isn't usually about a lack of effort.
No, quite the opposite. It's a misdirection of effort. Learners expend an enormous amount of mental energy and cognitive resources on avoiding errors.
Instead of communicating.
Exactly, instead of focusing on communicating effectively.
So this intense focus on the linguistic form, the grammar, the pronunciation, over the actual content of the message, it creates a kind of cognitive overload.
Precisely. Cognitive overload, it stifles spontaneity, and it dramatically reduces fluency.
It's like they're trying to perform a complex dance routine perfectly in their head, memorizing every step.
Without ever actually stepping onto the dance floor and just moving. All that energy, all that mental bandwidth consumed by relentless self-correction and overanalysis. It could be far more productively channeled into active, meaningful communication.
So the solution isn't necessarily to just throw accuracy out the window.
No, not at all. Accuracy is still important, especially over time. But the key is to fundamentally reframe the purpose of speaking in the moment.
Shifting the goal.
Yes. shifting from an obsessive, almost paralyzing pursuit of error-free performance to the primary and frankly liberating goal of clear and effective message delivery. Get the idea across first.
Okay, that makes a lot of sense. And speaking of things that hinder progress, let's talk about the illusion of linear progress. We often imagine learning as this steady upward straight line, right? Like climbing stairs.
That's the common image, yes.
But language learning is fundamentally not a linear process. It is truly characterized by what we talked about earlier, that intermittent turbulence, fluctuation, and stability.
The chaotic itinerary again.
The chaotic itinerary. This brings us to a really common experience.
Yeah.
Why do learners so often feel like they're just stuck? They hit a wall.
They encounter what we call plateaus, those incredibly frustrating periods where, despite putting in consistent, diligent effort, studying every day,
Nothing seems to be changing.
exactly, noticeable improvement seems to just grind to a halt.
And that feeling, that lack of visible progress, can be profoundly discouraging.
It really can. It leads learners to mistakenly believe they're no longer improving, or worse, that they're just inherently bad at languages.
It's so easy to get down on yourself during those times. But you're saying these plateaus, they're completely natural, expected even.
Absolutely. It is absolutely vital to understand that these plateaus are a natural and expected part of any deep learning process, not just language. Think about learning an instrument or a sport.
You hit sticking points there too.
Of course.
Yeah.
They are not necessarily periods of stagnation, but rather crucial periods of integration and consolidation.
Integration and consolidation, what does that mean?
It means your brain isn't just sitting idle when you feel stuck. It's working behind the scenes. It's implicitly processing, reorganizing, and solidifying all the linguistic information you've already acquired.
Even if you don't feel it happening.
Exactly. Even if that internal work isn't immediately apparent in your external output or your visible progress.
Like muscles rebuilding after a workout.
That's another great analogy. Your muscles rebuild stronger during the rest period, even when you might just feel tired. Your brain is doing something similar, silently consolidating knowledge.
Okay, so here's a potentially powerful shift in perspective then. That feeling of not getting it, or maybe even feeling like you're getting worse,
Yes.
might actually be a sign of increased awareness, and awareness of what you don't yet know.
Precisely. That's a subtle but profoundly significant sign of advancement.
How so?
It means your understanding of the language, your internal map, has deepened to the point where you're now noticing the gaps, the subtleties you missed before. And noticing the gaps is the very first step toward filling them.
Wow. That turns the frustration completely on its head.
It really can. Learners need to be proactively educated about this inherently nonlinear nature of language acquisition. We need to encourage everyone to view plateaus not as failures, but as normal, even productive phases of subconscious processing.
And that reframing, it reduces frustration.
It can dramatically reduce frustration, help prevent burnout, and cultivate the patience needed for the long haul. It validates your efforts, even when visible progress feels agonizingly slow.
Okay. Another pitfall that frequently trips up English learners, and this one feels almost universal, is what we might call the comparison conundrum.
Ah, yes. Keeping up with the Joneses, linguistically speaking.
Exactly. And honestly, it feels like such a tremendous waste of time and energy, and it consistently harms confidence and motivation.
It's incredibly common to see how English learners fall into the trap of measuring their progress against others.
Against classmates, maybe?
Classmates, colleagues, people they meet who appear more fluent or who just seem to pick things up faster. This constant external benchmarking, it leads to immense unnecessary pressure.
And feelings of inadequacy?
Absolutely. Feelings of inadequacy and this pervasive sense of being behind some kind of mythical average timeline.
The psychological consequences of this kind of comparison, they sound quite severe.
They really can be. This pervasive social comparison can actively contribute to depressive symptoms, it can increase anxiety, and it can significantly lower self-esteem.
Oof.
It's absolutely vital to underscore the uniqueness of each individual's journey. Your language learning path is influenced by an incredibly complex mix of personal factors.
Like what?
Like your age when you started, your inherent aptitude, your specific motivation, why are you learning English, your preferred learning style, all your prior experiences with learning, the amount of time you can realistically dedicate.
The list goes on.
It really does. There is truly no one-size-fits-all timeline or benchmark for progress.
So how does this social comparison directly undermine something like self-efficacy, that belief in your own ability?
Well, by constantly measuring their progress against external benchmarks, that fluent classmate, the influencer online, some idealized perfect speaker individuals start to internalize these external metrics of success.
Instead of looking inward.
Exactly. Instead of focusing on their own internal growth, their own effort, the progress they've made since last week or last month,
And that erodes motivation.
it deeply erodes intrinsic motivation, that internal drive, and it chips away at the fundamental belief in one's own capability to improve, which is absolutely crucial for sustained persistence.
It sounds like another really detrimental negative feedback loop.
It undeniably is. External comparison leads to perceived inadequacy.
Not as good as them.
Right. Which in turn lowers self-efficacy.
Maybe I just can't do this.
And ultimately that results in reduced effort, maybe skipping practice or even complete withdrawal from learning activities. Why bother?
So what's the alternative? How do we fight this?
We strongly advocate for a fundamental shift, a conscious shift towards internal, self-referential progress tracking.
Meaning?
Meaning the guiding principle should be incredibly simple. Focus on being better than you were yesterday. Or compare your current self to your past self. Look back at where you were 6 months ago.
That feels much healthier.
It fosters a far more resilient and intrinsically motivated approach to language acquisition. Your progress becomes genuinely yours, measured against your own starting point and your own effort.
Okay, that makes perfect sense. Now, as we prepare to shift our mindset and really equip ourselves with a powerful blueprint for a more fulfilling journey, we want to pause for just a moment. If you're finding these insights valuable, and we hope you are, and you want to keep exploring how to make your English journey truly fulfilling, then please take a second to follow and subscribe to Crystal Clear English Podcast wherever you get your podcasts. It genuinely helps us bring you more amazing content like this. Okay, let's dive back in. With those hurdles, anxiety, perfectionism, plateaus, comparison clearly identified, let's talk about the crucial mindset shifts. These are the bedrock, really. The foundation for a confident, successful English journey. And the first, arguably the most fundamental shift in perspective for any English learner, is to consciously embrace progress over perfection.
Yes. This is huge. When we talk about embracing progress, it's really about redefining what fluency actually means to you. True fluency, in a practical, useful sense, is about being understood and communicating effectively.
Even with mistakes.
Even if it's not speaking flawlessly or entirely without errors. And this is a vital reminder. Even native speakers make mistakes all the time. Slips of the tongue, awkward phrasing.
That's true, we all do it.
Exactly. Imperfections are a completely normal and unavoidable part of language learning, and frankly, language use in general. The primary goal should always be to convey your message. And rest assured, listeners generally care much more about the content of what you're saying.
The idea you're sharing.
Yes, than about you achieving absolutely perfect grammar or pronunciation in every single sentence.
I think that's such a freeing thought for so many learners. Because that traditional, maybe unspoken definition of fluency as some kind of native-like perfection is truly a significant self-imposed source of language anxiety. And a massive contributor to that perfectionism trap we discussed.
Precisely. So when we explicitly redefine fluency as effective communication despite the presence of errors, something profound happens internally. The learner's internal standard for success fundamentally shifts. This new perspective dramatically reduces that immense self-imposed pressure.
Which probably encourages more speaking.
It encourages much more active and spontaneous participation, absolutely. It directly combats the perfectionism trap by making the goal feel more attainable, less intimidating.
So it's a realistic target.
It provides a more realistic and far less anxiety-provoking target. This fosters genuine confidence and encourages the risk-taking trying new words, attempting complex sentences that is absolutely necessary for actual fluency development.
And it lets you feel good about communicating, even if it wasn't perfect.
Exactly. It allows learners to celebrate communicative success even when their language isn't flawless, thereby sustaining that crucial motivation for the long haul.
Okay. Building on that idea, another powerful perspective shift involves consciously redirecting your attention, moving it away from the fear of making mistakes.
And towards the core message you intend to communicate.
Right, focusing on the what, not just the how perfectly.
And what's really interesting here is that extensive research actually indicates that an excessive focus on avoiding errors.
Which feels like what you should do.
Right, it feels counterintuitive, but focusing too hard on avoiding errors can actually make your speech less structured and less fluid.
Really? Why?
Because you're diverting so much mental energy to monitoring yourself. It can paradoxically increase anxiety and, believe it or not, sometimes lead to more errors because you're tripping yourself up.
Wow. So the effective strategy here is what?
It's to proactively concentrate on what you want to say and how to express that core idea as clearly and confidently as possible, letting go of the need for perfection in the moment.
So are there practical techniques listeners can use right now to actually make this shift? It sounds good, but how do you do it?
Absolutely. This process involves first increasing your self-awareness of that negative self-talk.
That inner critic.
Exactly. Those critical inner voices that whisper doubts. You're going to mess up. They won't understand you. You need to notice them first.
Okay. Notice them. Then what?
Then actively challenge and replace them with more positive or at least neutral and realistic affirmations like, my goal is to communicate my idea, or it's okay if I make a mistake, people will still understand. And when fear starts to creep in, a helpful technique is to simply ask yourself, okay, what's the absolute worst thing that could realistically happen if I make this mistake?
And usually the answer is?
Usually the answer is not much. Maybe someone asks for clarification, maybe you correct yourself. It puts the fear into perspective.
So this isn't just about thinking positively in a vague way.
No, it's about strategic cognitive redirection. It's about actively managing where your focus goes.
So it's about how we strategically manage our brain's limited resources, like attention.
Precisely. Your attention is a finite cognitive resource. You only have so much processing power at any given moment. If it's constantly consumed by the fear of error and that intense internal self-monitoring,
Checking every word.
there's simply less cognitive capacity available for the really complex processes involved in speaking fluently. Things like message formulation, vocabulary retrieval, structuring your sentences, managing pronunciation and intonation.
All the things you need to actually speak.
Exactly. By deliberately shifting your focus to the message, you free up these crucial cognitive resources, and that leads to more natural, more spontaneous, and ultimately more confident speech.
So it empowers you, really.
It empowers you by giving you agency, giving you control over your internal mental landscape. It transforms that passive, often debilitating reaction to anxiety into an active, strategic mental maneuver that directly improves your communicative effectiveness.
This sounds a lot like cultivating what's known as a growth mindset. How does that concept apply specifically to language learning?
A growth mindset is, at its core, the incredibly empowering belief that your language learning ability isn't some fixed, innate talent. You weren't just born good or bad at languages.
Unlike eye color or something.
Exactly. Instead, it's the belief that your ability is something that can be actively developed and improved through consistent effort, using effective strategies, and maintaining sustained motivation.
And why is that belief so crucial?
It's crucial because it encourages you to view mistakes not as embarrassing failures or signs you're not cut out for this,
What add?
but as invaluable opportunities for learning and improvement, data points essentially.
Yeah.
It fosters a deep willingness to take those necessary risks, trying things out, making errors that lead to real growth.
So it empowers learners to believe they can actually change their trajectory.
Absolutely. It empowers them to truly believe that they can make a significant difference in their own learning path and continuously enhance their abilities with dedicated time and practice. It puts the control back in their hands.
So if I catch myself thinking, I just can't do this, I'm just not good at languages, what's a practical way to immediately shift into that growth mindset?
A simple, yet incredibly powerful linguistic trick is to challenge those fixed mindset statements by just adding the word yet or the phrase right now to the end.
Okay, how does that work?
So instead of thinking or saying, I cannot do this, you immediately reframe it to, I cannot do this yet. Or instead of, I'm not fluent, you think, I'm not fluent right now.
That instantly changes the feeling, doesn't
It instantly reframes limitations as temporary challenges, things that are currently true but are within your power to change over time. It implies future possibility.
And this mindset provides psychological resilience.
Absolutely necessary psychological resilience to navigate the inherent difficulties, the inevitable setbacks, and that nonlinear nature of language acquisition we keep talking about.
So without it, any challenge, like hitting a plateau, just feels like proof you can't do it.
Exactly. Without a growth mindset, inevitable challenges hitting a plateau, making a glaring error in front of people, are misinterpreted as definitive proof of inadequacy. That's a hallmark of a fixed mindset.
Which leads to giving up.
It leads to demotivation and eventually often the abandonment of learning goals. See, I knew I couldn't do it.
But with a growth mindset,
Conversely, with a growth mindset, those same setbacks are instantly reframed. They become valuable data points for learning, opportunities for strategic adjustment. Okay, that didn't work. What can I try differently?
Which fosters persistence.
It fosters persistence and long-term engagement. So cultivating a growth mindset is far more than just a feel-good motivational technique.
It's fundamental.
It is a foundational cognitive framework. It dictates how you interpret challenges and how you respond to perceived failures. And this framework directly impacts your long-term success and your ability to persist through the inevitable ups and downs of the journey.
Okay. One final mindset shift, and this one feels particularly important in today's world: practicing self-compassion. What does that truly mean in the context of learning English?
Self-compassion, essentially, involves actively being kind, understanding, and non-judgmental towards yourself, especially when you're facing challenges, making mistakes, or experiencing those moments of feeling inadequate or frustrated.
Being kind to yourself like you would to a friend.
That's a key part of it. It comprises 3 core components. First is self-kindness, treating yourself with the same care, empathy, and encouragement you'd offer a good friend who is struggling.
Instead of beating yourself up.
Exactly. Second is common humanity, recognizing that everyone makes mistakes, everyone struggles, everyone feels inadequate sometimes. You're not alone in this experience. It's part of being human, and especially part of learning something difficult.
So it connects you to others instead of isolating you.
Yes. And third is mindfulness, simply observing your difficult thoughts and feelings without judgment. Acknowledging them, okay, I'm feeling frustrated right now, without getting totally swept away or overly identifying with them.
So it really is an antidote to that harsh inner critic that so many learners seem to carry around. That voice that's always cutting out flaws.
It's a powerful antidote, yes. By consciously cultivating self-compassion, you can significantly reduce anxiety, you can combat procrastination tendencies because you're less afraid of not doing it perfectly and dramatically lower your fear of failure.
Which enhances motivation.
It enhances intrinsic motivation and overall resilience. Think about it. Language learning inherently involves receiving external correction, maybe from teachers or native speakers, and of course, engaging in internal self-criticism.
Both can feel harsh.
They can, and without the practice of self-compassion, that internal criticism often becomes far more debilitating and damaging than any external feedback could ever be. It can lead to a paralyzing fear of judgment that originates more intensely from within.
So self-compassion acts as a kind of internal buffer, protecting you from both external hits and internal attacks.
Yes, exactly. That's a perfect way to put it. Self-compassion acts as an internal buffer. It allows you to process both external feedback and your own mistakes constructively without internalizing them as personal failures or as evidence that you're somehow fundamentally flawed.
So it's not about just letting yourself off the hook or lowering your standards.
Not at all. That's a common misconception. Practicing self-compassion is not about lowering your standards or accepting mediocrity. It's not about making excuses. Rather, it's about creating a psychologically safe internal environment, an environment that is genuinely conducive to learning and growth.
Because learning requires vulnerability.
Exactly. It fosters the vulnerability and the willingness to take risks, trying out new things, speaking even when you're unsure, which are absolutely essential components for progress, particularly in developing speaking skills. It does this by significantly mitigating the emotional fallout of imperfection. It helps you pick yourself up after a mistake and try again instead of shutting down.
Okay, these mindset shifts progress over perfection. Focus on communication, growth mindset, self-compassion. They feel like a really solid foundation. Now, with that foundation firmly in place, let's move into our step-by-step blueprint for a truly fulfilling English journey. Practical actions. Step 1 is all about charting your own course with SMART goals. Specific, measurable, achievable, relevant, and time-bound objectives. You mentioned this is a cornerstone.
It truly is a cornerstone for consistent motivation and for actually seeing your progress, which fuels more motivation. Think about it. Why are vague aspirations like, I want to speak better English, so much less effective than concrete, actionable targets?
Because better is undefined. You don't know when you've achieved it.
Exactly. Vague goals give you no clear direction and no way to measure success. SMART goals force clarity. And your goals should be deeply personalized. They need to be tailored to your individual learning needs, your motivations. Why are you learning?
Connected to real life.
Directly connected to your real-life needs, whether it's for work presentations, upcoming travel, or simply chatting with international friends online. And crucially, breaking down large, potentially overwhelming goals like become fluent into smaller, more manageable milestones. that prevents feeling overwhelmed and ensures a consistent sense of steady progress. Little wins along the way.
So how does this SMART framework directly combat that pervasive race mentality we've been discussing, that feeling of needing to get there fast?
Well, the race mentality implies this singular, distant, and often incredibly intimidating finish line perfect fluency.
Yeah, which feels miles away.
Right. In stark contrast, the SMART framework emphasizes breaking that journey down into smaller, achievable steps, and importantly, celebrating frequent small wins along the way. This week I learned 20 words. Today I had a 5-minute conversation.
So it shifts the focus.
It directly combats the race mentality by shifting your focus away from that intimidating, distant endpoint and towards a series of manageable, rewarding mini-journeys.
Which makes the pace feel more sustainable.
Exactly. It creates a much more realistic and sustainable pace for language acquisition. It significantly reduces the pressure for rapid, all-encompassing fluency.
And seeing yourself achieve these smaller goals must boost motivation.
Absolutely. By providing frequent opportunities for success and positive reinforcement, I did it. I met my goal for this week. SMART goals foster continuous intrinsic motivation. It makes the learning process feel less like a frantic race and more like a series of achievable, deeply satisfying tasks that build on each other.
That sounds incredibly empowering. Can you give us some detailed, concrete examples of SMART goals that English learners could actually set for themselves right now?
Sure, let's break it down. For specific S, instead of I want to speak better, a specific goal might be I will hold a 5-minute conversation with my language exchange partner, specifically on the topic of hobbies or weekend plans, using at least 5 new vocabulary words.
Okay, very clear. What about measurable?
For measurable M, a goal could be I will learn 20 new English vocabulary words related to my profession each week, and I will track this by writing each word and a unique example sentence using it in my digital journal. You can count them.
Got it. Achievable.
Achievable. A. This is key. Set realistic objectives based on your current level and available time. So instead of read a whole novel this week, maybe I will complete 1 chapter of my intermediate English workbook each week, focusing specifically on the grammar exercises, spending 30 minutes each day.
Makes sense. Relevant.
Relevant are. Your goals need to align with your why. So if you need English for work, a relevant goal might be, I will improve my English presentation skills by practicing a 10-minute speech summarizing my latest project report, aiming for clear pronunciation and smooth transitions in preparation for my upcoming international team meeting.
Directly useful. And finally, time-bound.
Time-bound, T. Setting a deadline creates urgency and focus. For example, I will improve my listening comprehension so that I can understand 80% of the main ideas in a 5-minute news podcast episode without using subtitles by the end of next Friday.
So this structured approach really transforms that abstract desire for fluency into a concrete, actionable plan.
Exactly. It empowers you to take clear, tangible control of your English journey step by step.
Okay, our second step in this practical blueprint is to transform mistakes into milestones. We touched on this with the growth mindset, but let's get practical. It's paramount to understand that mistakes are not just natural. They are absolutely inevitable and maybe even essential for learning any new language.
It's truly insightful, isn't it, to see how the fear of making mistakes acts as such a significant psychological barrier for so many learners. It holds them back. But by consciously, deliberately viewing errors not as failures, but as stepping stones to improvement.
Or data points.
Or discoveries about what you need to learn next. Yes, data points. You fundamentally reduce anxiety and you encourage the necessary risk-taking that leads to genuine growth.
So instead of trying to avoid errors at all costs,
learners should actively embrace them or at least accept them and then strategically learn from them, turn them into learning opportunities.
So how can someone actively embrace their mistakes in a practical way? It sounds good, but what does it look like?
A highly effective technique, and one I recommend often, is keeping a mistakes journal or maybe a digital log.
Okay, what do you put in it?
You track recurring errors. When you notice you made a mistake or someone corrects you, you jot it down. What was the mistake? What was the context? Then periodically you review it. You look for patterns. Are you always mixing up certain prepositions, confusing specific verb tenses?
So you analyze them.
You analyze them, recognize the underlying patterns, and then you can develop targeted self-correction strategies. Like, if you consistently mix up say and tell, your journal helps you spot that specific issue. Then you can find exercises or actively practice just that distinction until it becomes clearer.
So it focuses your effort.
Precisely. Educators also play a crucial role here by normalizing errors in the classroom, praising effort and communication attempts, not just perfect correctness. But for the learner, the guiding principle should be prioritize getting your message across first in the moment of communication.
Don't stop the flow to fix everything.
Exactly. Avoid the trap of overanalysis in the moment, which can halt your fluency and increase anxiety. Analyze and correct specific errors later, maybe when reviewing your mistakes journal or reflecting on the conversation.
So mistakes aren't just failures. They're valuable diagnostic data. They show us exactly where we need to focus our attention and practice.
Exactly. Mistakes are not merely failures, but rather invaluable diagnostic data points. Feedback on your current system. By systematically tracking and reflecting on your errors, you can precisely identify your specific linguistic weaknesses, understand the underlying patterns in your errors, and subsequently target your study efforts far more effectively.
Which saves time and energy.
It transforms a potentially negative emotional experience, ugh, I messed up again, into a strategic, proactive learning opportunity. It fosters a sense of control and significantly accelerates targeted improvement.
It shifts your perspective from just reacting emotionally
To a proactive, analytical one. And this powerfully reinforces that growth mindset we talked about by demonstrating that challenges and errors are not endpoints, but integral parts of the learning process that directly lead to deeper understanding and skill refinement.
Okay, step 3 in our blueprint is to engage in purposeful practice. This sounds like it's about being strategic with how we practice, especially speaking.
Yes, purposeful practice is all about taking a deliberate, thoughtful, and often gradual approach to overcoming speaking anxiety and actually building your skills. It's not just random chatting.
So how does the gradual approach work?
Well, you should aim to build comfort step by step. Maybe
Oh,
begin practicing in a really low-pressure environment.
like talking to yourself.
Mm.
Or a pet.
Absolutely. Or speaking with a supportive roommate, a patient family member. Then gradually move to slightly more challenging situations like small group discussions with other learners.
And eventually larger settings.
Eventually, yes, maybe larger classroom discussions or even public settings like ordering coffee or asking for directions. The key is gradual exposure.
And what's crucial here is consistency, right?
Absolutely crucial. Even short daily practice sessions, honestly, 10 to 15 minutes can make a huge difference, are remarkably more effective than sporadic, intense bursts of studying for hours once a week.
Why is that?
Consistent, small efforts build habits. They keep the language fresh in your mind, and they steadily reinforce memory pathways. It leads to remarkable results over time because it compounds.
So where should the focus be during this practice to develop genuine fluency?
Fluency is best acquired through active conversation and engaging activities that actually encourage spontaneous speech and genuine self-expression, not just repeating drills.
Like role plays.
Role plays are highly effective, yes. They simulate real-life situations, ordering food, a job interview, making plans in a structured yet low-pressure setting. They let you immediately apply what you're learning.
What else?
Storytelling exercises are fantastic. They help improve thought organization thinking on your feet in English. They enhance spontaneity and refine pronunciation and intonation as you try to make the story engaging.
Small group discussions, too.
Small group discussions significantly reduce the intimidation factor compared to speaking in front of a large class. They foster a more comfortable and supportive environment for interaction and trying things out.
Are there any specific examples of these purposeful practice activities that listeners could try out on their own or with a partner?
Oh, definitely. There are tons of fun ones. You could try Guess the Story, where one person gives a few random words and the other has to weave them into a coherent narrative.
Sounds challenging.
It is, but great practice. Or ADC activities, which stands for Agree, Disagree, Change. Someone makes a statement and others have to agree, disagree with reasons, or change the topic slightly. Promotes debate and justification.
Okay.
Interview pop can be lively. One person acts as an interviewer asking rapid-fire questions. The other answers like a celebrity on the spot. And for food lovers, foodie talk, describing favorite dishes, recipes, or restaurant experiences in detail.
What about practicing alone?
Audio journaling is an incredibly powerful self-study method. You simply talk to yourself in English about your day, your thoughts, anything, and record it.
And then listen back.
Yes. Listening back is key. It's fantastic for developing spontaneous speaking ability, building personal vocabulary that you actually use, and identifying your own common errors or pronunciation issues without any external pressure.
That sounds really useful. Now, what about that constant tension many learners feel between fluency and accuracy? It feels like you have to choose.
That's a really important question, and it is a balancing act. Accuracy, correct grammar, appropriate vocabulary, clear pronunciation is undoubtedly important for clear communication in the long run.
Right.
But prioritizing fluency, the ability to speak relatively easily and smoothly, even with some errors that don't completely block communication, is often crucial in the initial stages, especially for building confidence.
So focus on flow first.
Often, yes. When you're practicing fluency, especially in conversation, it's often advisable not to overstress perfect accuracy in the moment. Let the conversation flow. This allows you to focus on expressing yourself, getting your ideas out, rather than getting constantly bogged down by trying to find the perfect word or the perfect grammatical structure.
Because overcorrection can be demotivating.
Massively. Whether it's from a teacher constantly interrupting or harsh self-correction, it can make you anxious and just reluctant to speak at all. Good practice environments often model correct forms unobtrusively, or focus on error correction after the main communicative activity so the flow isn't constantly broken.
So the goal is balance over time.
Exactly. The ultimate goal is to balance both, integrating a focus on accuracy gradually as your confidence and overall skill level grow.
And how about full immersion? That's often touted as the best way. But for many of us who don't live in an English-speaking country, how can we best achieve that crucial immersion experience?
That's a great point. True immersion isn't always possible, but you can create a rich, immersive environment wherever you are. For effective immersion, you need to strategically surround yourself with the language as much as possible, consistently.
Like watching movies.
Yes, consistently watching English movies and TV shows, maybe with English subtitles first, then without. Listening actively to podcasts, like this one, and music in English. Reading extensively find things you genuinely enjoy, whether it's novels, news articles, blogs, online forums related to your hobbies.
Active engagement, too.
Absolutely. Engaging in real conversations whenever possible is vital. Use online language exchange platforms, find conversation partners, join local English clubs if available. This provides practical application and exposure to the natural rhythm and flow of spoken English.
And integrating it into daily life.
Crucially important. Integrate English into your daily routines in small ways. Label objects around your home with sticky notes. Change your phone, computer, or social media settings to English. Try narrating your daily actions to yourself in English, even if it's just in your head. Okay, now I'm making coffee.
Little things add up.
These small, consistent exposures make the language feel less like a separate subject you study and more like a natural part of your everyday existence.
Okay, our final step in the blueprint, step 4, is all about cultivating persistence and preventing burnout. We've already established that language learning plateaus are completely normal, expected, not a sign of failure. But knowing that intellectually doesn't always make them easier to navigate emotionally, does it?
You're absolutely right. They can still be incredibly frustrating and demotivating when you're in the thick of one. I'm working so hard. Why am I not improving? During these plateau periods, one effective strategy is to consciously reassess your goals. Maybe the goals you set earlier are no longer challenging enough. Making them slightly more ambitious can sometimes provide a renewed sense of purpose and direction.
Okay, shake things up goal-wise. What else?
Changing your routines can also be really helpful. If you always study grammar in the morning, try listening practice instead. Try completely new learning materials, a different textbook, a new app, a podcast on a totally different topic. Breaking the monotony can reignite interest.
And continuing that daily integration.
Yes, as we just discussed, actively integrating English into daily life, consciously thinking in English during your commute, changing those device settings helps maintain consistent, low-pressure exposure even when focused study feels unproductive.
Seeking out real conversations, too.
Definitely. Actively seeking out real conversations, even short ones, provides a vital reality check. You might be surprised at how much you can understand or express, which can counter the stuck feeling. Plus, it exposes you to natural language use in dynamic situations.
And reviews.
And remember the power of regular reviews. Even just spending a few minutes each day revisiting vocabulary or grammar points you've learned previously is surprisingly powerful for reinforcing memory and solidifying those neural pathways, even when you don't feel like you're learning anything brand new.
So these help navigate plateaus. But what about preventing burnout altogether? That feeling of just being exhausted and wanting to quit. It's crucial for sustained motivation over the long haul.
Preventing burnout is absolutely key for marathon learning. It requires proactive, strategic self-care across several pillars: physical, emotional, and mental.
Okay, break those down for us. Physical.
Physically, it's the basics, but they're foundational. Ensuring you get adequate sleep seriously, sleep is crucial for memory consolidation. Eating nutritious food that fuels your brain, getting regular physical exercise, which boosts mood and cognitive function, these directly impact your energy levels and your ability to focus and learn.
Emotional self-care.
Emotionally, this involves actively practicing stress relief techniques. Things like deep breathing exercises, mindfulness meditation, progressive muscle relaxation. Whatever works for you to manage the anxiety symptoms that can build up and lead to feeling overwhelmed by the learning process.
And mental.
Mentally, this is about setting healthy boundaries, learning to say no to non-essential commitments that drain your time and energy, protecting your study time. Also, performing what some call energy audits, consciously reflecting on what activities or interactions drain your energy versus which ones replenish it, and adjusting accordingly.
That sounds very deliberate.
It has to be sometimes. And don't underestimate the power of micro breaks during your study sessions and throughout your day. Even just a 5 or 10-minute break to stretch, walk around, or listen to music can dramatically reduce mental fatigue and boost clarity.
And circling back to celebrating small wins, even the tiny ones.
Absolutely essential for preventing burnout. Actively acknowledge and celebrate your small victories, no matter how minor they seem. I understood that joke. I used that new phrase correctly. This provides crucial perspective and keeps motivation high, especially during challenging periods or plateaus. It reminds you that you are making progress.
And remembering that rest isn't laziness.
Critically important. It's vital to view rest not as a luxury or a sign of weakness or something you do only when you're completely exhausted. Rest is an essential, non-negotiable tool for maintaining your well-being and, ironically, for optimizing your learning capacity. Rest is when your brain does the hard work of consolidating what you've taken in. It's part of the process.
So bringing it all back together then, to the core message. Your English journey is undeniably, fundamentally, a marathon, not a sprint.
That's the heart of it. We've really dug into how that pervasive race mentality, often fueled by unrealistic expectations, can lead to significant psychological barriers. Things like language anxiety, crippling perfectionism, frustration over the illusion of linear progress. These really hinder genuine communicative development.
Yeah, and these challenges are frequently compounded by those unhelpful social comparisons and that often harsh tendency towards self-criticism.
But, and this is the hopeful part, the transformative power of consciously embracing these crucial mindset shifts we discussed.
Progress over perfection, growth mindset, self-compassion.
Exactly. Coupled with implementing that practical step-by-step blueprint.
Smart goals, transforming mistakes, purposeful practice, preventing burnout.
The power of doing that is truly immense.
It changes the whole experience.
By adopting this holistic approach, you can navigate the unavoidable complexities of language acquisition with significantly greater confidence, much more resilience, and actually genuine enjoyment along the way.
And this patient, consistent approach, what the long-term benefits?
It leads to decreased stress, definitely, increased enjoyment in the process itself, growing, sustainable confidence, and ultimately deeper, far more durable learning, the kind that results in nuanced understanding and the flexible communication skills that will truly serve you for life.
So maybe a final thought for everyone listening. The goal is not really to reach some mythical state of perfect English as quickly as possible. That's the sprint mentality. The real goal, the marathon goal, is to continuously expand your ability to connect, communicate, and express yourself in this beautiful, complex language. And that expansion, it happens one conversation, one book, one podcast episode, one mistake learned from, and one small victory celebrated at a time. Your English journey is uniquely yours. And the most meaningful destinations, the ones that truly matter, they cannot be rushed. They can only be reached through patience, through persistence, and through the profound courage to just keep moving forward one steady step at a time. We sincerely hope this deep dive helps you on your unique English journey. For more amazing insights and guidance, remember to follow and subscribe to Crystal Clear English Podcast wherever you listen. It truly supports us in bringing you content that makes a difference. Thank you for listening to the Crystal Clear English Podcast. Learning another language is like becoming another person.